I'm meteorologist Somara Theodore. I have not said that in a minute. That's because on November 26th of 2023, I decided to get off of social media. Honestly, full transparency, my heart was broken. Interpersonal relationships throughout life, but mainly because I had prior found out that my sister was diagnosed with cancer and it was pretty advanced. I don't know why instinctively I decided to get off of social media like that would help, but surprisingly, it has.
Welcome back to GMA3. That was our friend, ABC weather correspondent Somara Theodore, explaining the touching reason behind her decision to be off social media for a year.
Yeah, and Samara's completed a full year off the social media just last week, and here to tell us more about how this choice impacted her life, her health, and her own relationships. Somara Theodore, thank you so much for being here with us.
I'm so happy to be here with you
We
guys.
have to ask you first how you're doing, because I know you just lost your sister.
Yeah, grief is a process. I'm learning that. I'm still in the thick of it, or at the entrance of it, should I say. Compounded with that, I've also just got divorced about a week after we buried her, so it has been a journey, and I am still traversing this, but to have so much support here at work and at home has been amazing.
You've got to rely on your support system, but that's a lot for anyone to go through, and that would be compounded by the external forces of social media. So you made this decision to get off of it right around the time she was diagnosed with cancer. What effect did getting off of social media and staying present and focused on that relationship have on the relationship with your sister?
You know, I'll tell you something. Cancer is insidious. If you see this up close with friends and family, it eats away at their body and their spirit. And so the idea of posting my highest moments for my sister to see when she was at her lowest, it just didn't sit right with me. It made me more present. In her final days, she was there, she would say things like, I feel like a burden, and I was like, you're not a burden. And in those quiet moments where we were sitting on the couch, I would normally scroll, you know, when you're not talking to people. That was an opportunity not for me to scroll, but to just be present. And I got to be with her and really be with her. And those moments I will never take for granted.
Yeah, it sounds like you learned a lot. I'm curious, though, because you're back on social media.
I am.
What the next year online is going to look like for you?
It's going to look regulated. I've got boundaries in place. I only have decided to put my social media apps on one device, that being my iPad. I don't travel with that as much. And I am going to make sure that everything I post is purposeful, because I want to share light. I want to share information about Marvel and weather and art and fashion and music, those things I love. But I want it to be very purposeful.
That intentionality seems like it would be very important.
Word.
And Dr. Darian, what are some ways, in addition to intentionality, that people can create healthier relationships with social media?
I think Samara touched on a couple of them, which are really important, that regulation, that making sure that you're purposeful. But I think there are things that we can all do in our days to help regulate our use of social media. We talk about this a lot. We've had Surgeon General warnings regarding young adults and how impressionable the social media and these social platforms can be. So some things you can do. Number one, turning off notifications. A lot of the times when we pick up our phone, you get that dopamine surge from that new like or that new comment, and that inevitably doesn't help you. And so turning off notifications can be one thing. Putting your apps on a separate device, I think, is so intelligent and so smart. I will say that's one of the reasons why I see you carry around that iPad. That makes sense now. But beyond that, we can all make little changes and little differences. Counting how many hours you're on, if you check today, it will be enlightening, I promise you. And I think through learning from Samara, I realized that my use was too much, and taking random days off, choosing a Monday or Tuesday and saying, I'm not going to be active this day, and remembering that there's nothing that's changing when you're not there. It'll still be there when you come back.
And I just have to add one thing. The other thing it did was it made the world around me that much more digestible. You know, that was so important.
Absolutely. Samara, you are sunshine in a storm. Thank you so much for sharing your story, and thank you, Dr. Darian, for helping share some tips. This has been a really helpful conversation, and we're here for you in this hard time.
Thank you, Will.